Okay, so generative AI, these tools, I mean, they're everywhere now, right? Helping us summarize things, drafting emails, even like structuring arguments. It's incredibly convenient. But here's the big question, the one we really need to tackle. Is all this convenience actually making us, well, intellectually lazy? Are we paying a hidden cognitive price?
That really is the core conflict, isn't it? When we look at generative AI, you have to see both sides. It's an amazing tool for productivity, no doubt. But yeah, there's a genuine cognitive risk if we just, let it do all the thinking for us instead of helping us think better.
Right, that specific risk, this cognitive offloading idea that can lead to, what, intellectual de-skilling. That's what we're digging into today. We've got this fantastic experimental study to unpack, cross-country Germany, Switzerland, UK, about 150 people. It gets us some real empirical proof. So our mission today is to show you how one simple change, just how you structure your prompts apparently, can flip the script on those negative effects. It might actually boost your critical reasoning.
Exactly. We're trying to move beyond just worrying about it in theory and actually isolate the mechanism. How does structured prompting make you engage more reflectively? How does it turn AI into, say, a partner instead of just a crutch?
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the problem itself. What exactly is going on in our heads when we kind of default to letting the AI do the heavy lifting?
So the main concept is cognitive offloading. Basically, it's shifting mental work that you'd normally do inside your head onto an external tool. Now, we've always done this to some extent. Think calculators, notebooks.
Yeah.
But Gen AI is, well, fundamentally different. Your calculator just does the sum. Your notebook stores info. Gen AI actually synthesizes information. It builds arguments. It evaluates complex ideas for you.
Ah, okay. So it's not just saving information, it's saving the effort of thinking. And that shortcut, that's the slippery slope to de-skilling.
It really is. And, there is some important research before this study that really highlighted the consequences. They actually call it cognitive debt. There was a key longitudinal study out of MIT using EEG, brain monitoring, on people using large language models for things like writing essays.
EEG, wow, okay. So they were actually looking at brain activity. What did they find? Was there a noticeable difference?
A significant difference, yes. They found that the users who relied heavily on the LLM showed a noticeable reduction in brain connectivity, specifically in the neural networks we use for reasoning and, importantly, for forming long-term memories. The LLM-assisted group, they just showed weaker activation overall.
Weaker activation. So
Yeah.
basically, if you don't use those mental muscles, they don't develop. The internal structure needed to actually remember, and reason doesn't get built.
That's a good way to put it. It's cognitive debt. You're borrowing the thinking power without building your own.
And does that mean people couldn't even recall their own arguments later?
That's exactly what they found. Those participants really struggled to recall or even quote the arguments they'd supposedly constructed. There was no intellectual ownership because, well, the deep cognitive work wasn't really theirs.
And there's this other really dangerous element the research flagged, this paradox of confidence. You'd expect less effort means less confidence, right?
Yeah.
But apparently not.
That's what makes it so insidious. Other researchers found that knowledge workers using Gen AI, they reported feeling like the task took much less mental effort, which makes sense. But crucially, they also reported increased confidence in how good their final output was. The AI's smooth, professional-sounding text can mask how little you actually contributed. You feel good about it, even with minimal intellectual input.
Okay, so unguided use potentially leads to neurological debt and this false sense of confidence. That's not a great combination. So the urgent question becomes, how do we structure things differently? How do we force that reflection back into the process? And that's precisely what this experimental study set out to test, right?
Exactly. They designed a controlled study with multiple conditions to really isolate the effects.
And the task itself, what did they have people do?
It was a task designed to be accessible but still require some proper reasoning. They asked participants to construct a reasoned response to the question, what are the advantages and disadvantages of democracy?
Okay, a classic critical thinking task and the different conditions.
There are 4 conditions. First, a human-only group as a baseline. Second, an AI-only benchmark, just what the AI produced on its own. Then the 2 crucial groups, human plus AI, but totally unguided to use it however you want. And fourth, the key one, human plus AI, but guided with a specific structured prompting protocol.
And they didn't just ask people how well they thought they did, right? They had experts evaluate the quality.
Absolutely critical. Success was measured by expert raters using a validated rubric. They scored the responses on things like clarity, coherence, depth, whether they considered counterarguments, and originality. A total score out of 30.
Okay, so what did they find? Did the unguided AI use help much?
Well, the initial results really confirmed those earlier fears. When they ran the stats, the unguided human plus AI group, they only showed a very modest improvement over just working completely alone. And here's the real kicker. Their output quality was statistically indistinguishable from the AI-only benchmark.
Wow. So basically, if you just ask the AI for a draft and maybe tweak the intro a bit, you've added almost zero unique human cognitive value. You're just acting like a slightly slower spell checker for the machine.
That's essentially the takeaway, yes. Unstructured use seems to lead people to just mimic or defer to the system's output. But, and this is the crucial part, the guided condition completely changed the picture.
Okay. How much better were they?
Significantly better. The human plus AI guided group didn't just edge out the others, they substantially outperformed all other conditions. On average, they scored nearly 8 points higher than the human alone group on that 30-point scale.
8 points. That's a huge leap. That's like the difference between, I don't know, a C paper and an A paper.
It's a very meaningful difference in quality, yes, representing much deeper, more nuanced reasoning.
Right. And those 8 points didn't come from the AI suddenly getting smarter.
No.
It came from the human interacting with it differently through that mandatory structured process.
Right.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting and actionable for anyone listening.
Exactly. The whole point of the structured prompting protocol was to reconfigure the interaction, to force the user to treat the AI like a specialized research instrument, maybe, not a ghostwriter. It's all about keeping the human in the driver's seat for the core reasoning. That's what stops the cognitive offloading.
Okay, let's walk through it. This 5-step protocol, the metacognitive scaffold, as they call it, that delivered that huge 8-point jump. What are the steps?
Right. Step one is absolutely key. Initial reflection. Before you even touch the AI, you have to sit down and formulate your own preliminary thoughts, your hypotheses, without any AI input. Force that initial brain engagement.
Okay, think first. Makes
Right.
sense. Step 2.
Step two, targeted research use. Now, you can use the AI, but only for retrieving specific factual information, data, maybe some context. You actively avoid asking it to generate arguments or evaluate ideas for you. Think of it as a superpowered librarian, not your co-author.
Got it. AI for facts, not for opinions or structure. Then step 3.
Step three, argument construction, is purely human again. You take your initial thoughts and the facts you gathered, and you construct or revise your argument yourself. Critically, you don't copy-paste or directly synthesize the AI's text output. The synthesis, the heavy lifting of putting it together, stays with you.
Okay, 1, 2, 3 seem focused on forcing my own thinking up front. But step 4 is interesting. Critical review. You actually submit your drafted argument to the AI and ask it to critique your work, like find weaknesses, missing points, counter arguments. Isn't that kind of letting the AI back in to do some evaluation?
That's a really good question. But the timing and framing are crucial here. Because you've already done steps 1 and 3, you've done the initial thinking, constructed the argument, established that intellectual ownership, you're now positioned to critically evaluate the AI's feedback. The AI shifts roles. It's not generating the core ideas anymore. It's acting as a critical partner, maybe like a sophisticated devil's advocate. This forces you, the user, back into active reasoning for the final step.
Ah, I see. So it's prompting more thinking from me, not replacing it, which leads to step 5.
Step 5, final reflection and revision. You take the AI's critique, consider it, and then refine your arguments, consciously maintaining your own authorship and making the final decisions. You're still in charge.
Okay, that 5-step process makes intuitive sense. It forces engagement at multiple points.
Exactly. And the study didn't just show that it worked, but it also shed light on why it worked, using something called mediation analysis. It wasn't just following the steps mechanically. Following the steps led users to report feeling a higher level of perceived reflective engagement.
So the feeling matters. The feeling of actually grappling with the ideas. That feeling is the mechanism that then leads to better critical thinking.
Precisely. That sense of mental effort is the key. And the qualitative interviews really brought this to life. People described the unguided AI use as feeling like fast food, quick, easy, convenient, but ultimately kind of empty.
Yeah.
Whereas the guided use, using the structured protocol, felt more like cooking. Participants said things like it took more effort, but you actually understand what you're eating, or it was more cognitively demanding.
that demandingness is the feature, not the bug.
It is the feature. It represents deliberate cognitive investment.
You know, that fast food analogy really hits home. I caught myself doing exactly that last week. Asked an LLM to draft a meeting summary. I think I changed maybe 3 words and hit send. Pure intellectual fast food. The pull towards ease is just so strong, you can forget the whole point is to actually, think.
It's a very easy trap to fall into.
Okay, so the structured approach works. Now, did the study look at who it works best for? You mentioned earlier that generally older or more educated people tend to do better on reasoning tasks. Did that hold true?
Yes, the study did confirm that general correlation age and education level were positively associated with baseline performance. That's pretty standard. But here's the really exciting part regarding the intervention. The structured prompting managed to partially level the playing field.
How so?
The group that saw the biggest relative improvement from using the guided method compared to working alone, it was the youngest participants, the 14 to 18-year-old.
Really? How big was the improvement for them?
Get this, a 51.12% increase in their average score from the human-only condition to the human plus guided AI condition.
51%. Wow, that is massive. That strongly suggests we shouldn't just be talking about banning AI in schools. We should be actively teaching structured, reflective ways to use it.
Absolutely. It shows this kind of guidance can be a powerful enabling tool, especially for learners who are still developing those core critical thinking skills.
But it's not just for students, is it? Because the study also uncovered something about experienced thinkers. This illusion of non-offloading.
Right. This was fascinating. They interviewed participants, including some experienced academics, like a professor. Initially, this professor sort of denied offloading his thinking to the AI. But when they observed his actual interaction process, even he showed subtle signs of anchoring. He basically took the AI's initial draft as the main framework and then just refined or edited it, rather than building his argument from the ground up as the protocol requires.
So even experts, people you'd think are, immune to taking cognitive shortcuts because critical thinking is their job, can still fall into that pattern if they're not careful. Confidence isn't immunity.
It seems not. The convenience factor is powerful for everyone. And that's why this isn't just an academic point. It has really significant implications for business, for society, for how we all work.
Okay, so let's connect those dots. What does this all mean? For decision-making in companies, for policy, maybe just for every professional listening right now who uses these tools daily.
Well, I think it means that just letting AI loose in the workplace without any guidance on how to use it reflectively risks undermining the quality of a decision-making. It could standardize thinking down to whatever the AI's average output is. The goal shouldn't be automation of thought. It should be augmentation. We want AI to help us become smarter, more critical thinkers, right? And structured prompting looks like a practical, scalable, pretty low-cost way to encourage that. It's a kind of governance tool for responsible, human-centric AI use.
Intentional augmentation, not automated passivity. I like that.
That's the aim.
So this deep dive really provides clear evidence, doesn't it? The negative side effects of GenAI on our thinking, they aren't inevitable. It really seems to depend entirely on how we choose to interact with these tools.
The choice is definitely ours. Are we going to use AI to delegate our thinking away or use it to build scaffolds for deeper, more effortful reflection?
And maybe one final thought to leave listeners with. Something provocative.
Yeah, there was another really interesting finding. The study found a clear link. Participants who actually rated the guided task prompting thoughtfully without offloading as being more demanding, more difficult, they actually achieved higher performance scores. So that feeling of difficulty, that sense of mental effort, maybe even slight struggle when you're trying to craft the right prompt or integrate the AI's feedback thoughtfully, that feeling isn't necessarily a sign you're doing it wrong or getting confused. It's often a sign of deep cognitive investment. It means you're doing the work.
So the takeaway is, the next time you're using an LLM, maybe you should be the one feeling a bit challenged, mentally stretched, not just the AI turning out an easy answer.
Exactly. That effort is likely where the real value, the real learning, and the best thinking happens.